We may be late getting to it, but we're doing the research we need to identify those at risk.
Our whole case is built on what Cliff Morrison told him.
I know, but how can he really hurt us? There's no conspiracy, no falsification of data, no doctored reports.
Okay, look. Just stick to the facts, don't take it personal, and we'll be fine.
I'm sorry, Karen. I couldn't find the report cards from my elementary school you thought might be helpful.
The Hal's lawyer would probably make it sound like a prison reform school anyway.
Well, here are my personal expense account reports from my first 5 years with the company, deep from within the darkest reaches of the company's archives.
I would have expected more.
I'm a very judicious traveler and entertainer. No skeletons in my closet. And here's the signed agreement from last October between Faust and the University of Nebraska to begin the neoprofuse metabolism research. The funds to begin were just released last week. Another snafu.
That's not good. Another delay in starting the research.
I am ready to be deposed.
Please state your name, position, and length of service at Faust Pharmaceutical.
Mike Grabowski, Executive Vice President responsible for U.S. sales and marketing. I've been with the company for 15 years, and I started my career as a clinical research scientist.
Do you know why you're being sued? What do you like to be called? Mike? Michael?
Dr. Grabowski.
Physician?
Doctor of Pharmacy.
Do you know why you're being sued?
Yes, my company and I are named as defendants in a wrongful death suit brought by the Howe family in regards to the death of Paul Howe.
Describe the way Mr. Howell died, would you?
I believe that is out of my area of expertise.
Mr. Bennett, let's not get started on the wrong foot. My client is not a medical doctor, nor was he present in the hospital the night of Mr. Howell's death.
Can you tell me what you do know about the death of Mr. Howell?
Mr. Howe, a 44-year-old self-employed white male, was taken to his emergency room experiencing chest pain and shortness of breath. He was later diagnosed, I believe, with a Q-wave myocardial infarction. That's a serious heart attack.
Yes, but from your understanding, what killed him?
I believe the medical examiner listed the cause of death due to brain hemorrhage.
Due to?
His vascular disease.
Is that actually what the ME wrote?
No.
What did the medical examiner's report say caused the brain hemorrhage, Dr. Grabowski?
The hemorrhage was caused due to the administration of neoprofuse.
What can you tell us about the drug neoprofuse?
Neoprofuse was developed by Faust Pharmaceuticals. We manufacture it. It's been on the market for 6 years. The FDA has indicated to be given by trained physicians to those patients who suffer from acute myocardial infarction or a cerebroocclusive event. That's a blood clot-induced stroke. But it has saved tens of thousands.
How does it work?
I'm not sure how much depth you want me to go into here. It allows the blood to get around the clot and thus bring oxygen to the starved muscle or brain tissue more efficiently.
6 years ago, when this product was brought to market, you were the
product manager.
Well, that's a pretty important job in a drug company. You ever been a product manager before?
No. I had been in the clinical sciences function working on the product.
You should be very happy with the work of your research team, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Diane. And with everyone's expectations for this drug, we fell under the microscope.
The FDA Advisory Board actually commented on how well organized the NDA was and how it helped them with the approval process.
You know, I was surprised when I read that the board suggested that someday this may be the standard of care in ischemic events in the emergency department.
So Dr. Levinson can start his stroke patient trial in the spring. That is, if you have enough product to support it.
Levinson in a stroke trial? Cliff told me we were certain to get a myocardial infarction trial with Dr. Petrie.
Cliff. Is that what Cliff told you?
Yes.
You've got to be careful about Cliff. He always tells people what they want to hear. That's why the research doctors love him. Sometimes he doesn't even know what he's talking about.
But MI is the market we want. That's where the drug will ultimately help the most people.
There's no way senior management will launch this drug broadly for patients with MI after the results of the 040 study. We had rates of death from hemorrhage over 8% in the animal models.
But
No, the internal safety panel wants to use it first on the most acutely ill patients. Be happy with your promotion to product manager. In a couple of years, with a limited stroke indication in your pocket and an excellent safety profile, you'll get your market expansion for MI. Don't worry. Be patient.
So you knew neoprofuse would kill a certain number of people out of every 1,000, out of every 100 it was given to, correct?
We knew it would save many more, 1,000 times more perhaps than it would take.
That's not what I asked. Yes or no? As the person responsible for bringing this drug to market, were you aware of its potential to cause fatal hemorrhaging in the patients who received it?
Yes.
How'd you know that?
From animal tests, from experience.
Was it a difficult ethical decision for you to make proceeding with this potentially lethal drug?
No.
So it could be considered as a calculated, market-driven business decision for your company. And a pretty good career move for you, too, huh?
Mr. Bennett, this is not a courtroom.
It was both of those things, but not the way you're making them sound.
We have sworn testimony from a Dr. Diane Matthews. You know her? The court reporter can't hear you nod.
I know her.
And your relationship to her?
She was my boss. Presently, she's executive vice president and medical director at Ben Pharmaceuticals, a competitor.
We have sworn testimony from Dr. Matthews that executives at Faust, including yourself, were pushing for neoprofuse to be studied in all myocardial infarction patients even before all the safety issues were addressed. Is that not the case?
No, that is not the case.
So then you had all the safety issues buttoned down before moving on to study the use of neoprofuse in MI.
Research is not a static thing.
People weren't dying from it anymore?
Don't take that tone.
New issues arise, you investigate them.
Would it be fair to say then that your company's primary research emphasis is on market expansion?
Yes, that is the nature of the industry.
You ever heard of a P450 isoenzyme?
Yes, of course. It's an enzyme in the liver that relates to drug clearance, drug half-life. Where are you going? The meeting doesn't end until tomorrow.
Washington, to meet with the FDA. And one of the things we hope to be discussing is the framework for the NDA for neoprofuse and myocardial infarction.
So I heard.
Well, I told you, if you had patience, you'd get there.
Do you need anything more from me?
Yeah, about 10% of your marketing budget, so I can finish the research you need.
I was in the meeting when they unveiled the annual fourth quarter belt-tightening budget numbers for next year. You got clobbered. So what's going to give?
Your University of Nebraska drug half-life and drug-drug interactions, the P450 isoenzyme tests.
I thought we looked at that already.
Well, not in any real depth. I mean, in the initial patient studies, we looked at drug interactions and didn't see anything of any real significance. So I don't think there's any justification for any more studies in the clinical budget unless you want to pay for them.
I guess we're okay. You're the expert.
Well, I have to go. Thank you. Well, you know, it doesn't really have to take 10% of your budget. Just divert whatever you're going to pay for coffee cups and pens, and that'll do it.
Define half-life again.
The time it takes for the body to remove, metabolize, and excrete half the dose of a drug after it is given.
Are you aware of any research that shows a relationship between the half-life of neoprofuse and fatal hemorrhage?
Yes. It was done by a team of Swedish pharmacologists.
Can you tell me what that study has shown?
You already know what those studies have shown, Mr. Bennett.
I want to know what your client knows about them.
There appears to be a suggested link between half-life and hemorrhage. Certain patients, and we don't know who for sure, but Probably those with a rare genetic deficiency in a specific P450 enzyme, the 3A4 variant, can't eliminate neoprofuse as rapidly as others.
What happens then?
Well, the drug remains in their system at an active level longer than it should.
And?
And it can begin to set up hemorrhaging in those patients.
And?
And what?
And what happens to these patients?
And some are rescued through the administration of exogenous clotting agents, and a very few others die.
How long have you known about this issue of half-life and the so-called rare P450 isoenzyme problem?
3 years. Since the first report was published by the Swedes.
So as soon as your company became aware of this, your research team sprang into action.
We contracted the University of Nebraska to perform an in-depth analysis of this issue.
When did you contract with them?
Last year.
Why did it take so long to begin?
Timing and research budget cutbacks.
In the last 3 years, has your marketing budget grown, stayed the same, or been cut back?
It's grown.
By how much?
It's really hard to say.
Well, last year you began aggressively marketing this drug for myocardial infarctions, correct?
Yes.
Did your marketing budget increase?
Yes.
Well, by how much? 10%, 50%, 100%?
I'd have to say 10 to 15%.
So, as I hear it, for the 3 years that you knew people were needlessly dying from the administration of neoprofuse, your company focused its resources on new indications and marketing instead of ensuring the safety of patients using this drug.
Do you have a question for my client?
Do you know a Cliff Morrison?
Yes, I do.
Describe your relationship to Mr. Morrison.
I was Cliff's boss for a period of time, for about 5 years.